Here we are in Toronto. It's good to be back here. And I'm with Jules. What's your last name,
Hello,
Jules?
Jules Dungan.
And Duncan. We're just getting ready to start the War Resisters tour, which I'm really excited about. So maybe you could just give sort of a little heads up on how it came about and what your intentions are with the tour.
Okay, well, we're calling it the Frontlines Tour, and that name sort of alludes to people who have been on the front lines of current wars and all these U.S. imperialist ventures overseas. We have people from Vietnam veterans against the war, veterans for peace, Iraq veterans against the war, war resistors like myself who have served in the military and come to Canada. And the most important part is that we have Afghans and Iraqis, and that we're working together. A dialogue to happen between those two communities, between the veteran community, specifically the anti-war veteran community, and the Iraqi and Afghan community. It creates a stronger voice of opposition against these wars. Mm-hmm. And this all started, I was on Facebook just chatting up a couple of guys from the States and a couple of guys in the UK that's just started a Veterans for Peace chapter, like Joe Glenton. And we were talking about possibly coming to Toronto to panel on all these NATO soldiers who've served and their experiences. We were talking about how the underrepresented voice in all of this is the Afghan voice. So we got Soraya Sahar involved from Afghans United for Justice. We're also open to people who have seen the front lines, through journalism or academics or So that's the whole idea of Frontlines International, is bringing together all the voices of the witnesses, the occupiers and the occupied, together to create one solid voice of opposition against the war machine. Since I've been back from the war and gone AWOL, I've been in contact with one Afghan soldier who works with the Afghan Peace Volunteers, and those guys have a really tough time. And I know people here at home they see in the media and they hear about how hard it is for us when we get back from the war. And these are people who are fighting in the war, and they get home, and even when their military service ends, they're still in the war. Mm-hmm. Their families still, on the front lines. It doesn't end for them.
Did you find that coming back, that it was hard to go back into regular life?
I didn't even have a regular. I came back from Afghanistan in May of 2008, and I didn't even get to see my family yet. And so I was sort of in this quasi, still in the mentality of being deployed, but I'm back home in garrison. I haven't been home to see my family yet. Sort of still within the military machine, and it was always hyper alert. Your head is on a swivel, always paying attention, and the next moment you're back home, and the worst you got to worry about is getting up early to run in the morning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
it's like disarming yourself from being on guard 24/7.
Yeah. And a lot of guys were having problems with this. And then they had like a few days of like what they call it, like reintegration training, and it was basically don't beat your wife, don't get into fights, don't shoot your dog, don't drink and drive.
For real? For real?
Yeah, like all kinds of crap.
You've been deployed, and now you're coming back and you're
to our bases. So they have like all these stations around North America, all these main bases, like for different units. You have like Fort Lewis,
right,
for one unit. You have Fort Hood for another unit, Fort Bragg for another unit.
Okay.
So whenever they deploy and they come back, they go back to that wherever they came from.
And then you're waiting to go back again, or some go home?
Well, that's the thing. We all have contracts. We all have enlistment contracts, at least for enlisted soldiers. And my contract was supposed to be ending in July of 2009. And my unit was deploying again in August of 2009, and this has already come and gone already. It's 2013 now. So they've done that deployment already, and they've done another deployment already. So anyway, went back in 2008 when they were telling me this, the first sergeant was having a conversation with every single soldier bring them into his office, and he says, "What are your plans? Our unit is on the rotation schedule for August 2009. When is your enlistment contract date ending?" And I was made aware that my enlistment date fell very short of the cutoff mark, so I was going to be stop lost anyway, which happened to a lot of people in my unit who had a similar situation, and they went to Afghanistan for another year and a half, and a few of them died. Like my friend Tyler, who I served with during that first deployment, he survived with me, and then during the next deployment, he wasn't even there a week and was killed.
Jeez.
Yeah. And I still have friends that are, I think they're just getting back from this.
Were you given a trip home, or how did you actually end up coming up to Canada?
So how it happened was, when I had gotten back, we were put back on jump status for the 82nd Airborne, so people were like going on airborne operations, is what they would call it. And I was slotted to go on an airborne operation the day I went AWOL. So I a couple days before then, I had been talking to my commander about possibly switching MOSs, because by then I had made up my mind that if you're going to screw me over, if you're going to send me back, I'm going to find another job, because I don't want to be an infantry guy anymore. I'm not going to be running through the villages, kicking in doors, or like doing recon by fire into these villages and stuff. So I felt like if I was locked into this situation, it was best that I try to exhaust all the legal options. I wasn't even imagining the illegal options. But when my captain at the time shot me down, I showed him the DD-214, or like I forget the form to transfer out of the unit to try to get another job. I felt like the only course of action was to do the illegal. And the whole conscientious objector claim thing, I'd seen that before there was another soldier in my unit, Schiller, before I left for Afghanistan the first time. He had tried to do this conscientious objector thing, and I said, fine, if you don't want to be an infantryman, we'll make you an RTO in Gardez. So they made him an RTO.
And what's an RTO?
Radio guy. He was the radio guy. Oh. So I'd hear him on the radios, as we were talking, we were on like the squadron radio command net or whatever, and he's coordinating all these like airstrikes, and I'm like, so a kid has made it known that he does not want to participate in the fighting, so you make him the guy who's coordinating the airstrikes. That's great. Now I know that the CO claim is ineffective. It's very slim parameters, religious, conscientious objector. I'm not a Quaker. I don't consider myself a pacifist, so.
So it makes it very tough if you want to leave. And this is the thing that I don't understand, because they go to high schools to get these guys to enlist, and I don't think they have a good sense of really what they're getting into, other than they see free education and free travel. And so, once they get in and see it, I don't understand why the government and the Army would want people in there that don't want to be there, because it can't be that effective.
I was watching an interesting video on YouTube, I think it's like a few months ago, and they mentioned something about how like the teenage brain isn't even fully developed, so we don't have a proper sense of consequence, of like
maybe they like that.
Yeah, getting yourself into some shit. So it's the number one tactic for recruiters to serve everything on a golden platter. Here's your college. Here's a way out of the hood. Here's the way out of selling drugs. Here's the way out of abusive home or whatever. Just a way out.
Yeah.
You start a new life.
Yeah.
Enlistment bonus, all this crap. So it wasn't like that bad. I wasn't like selling drugs or anything, but my family was struggling. Yeah. My father hadn't been working for a long time because of a court case against his boss, and my mom was struggling, working like upwards of 60 hours a week at a hospital. So she was trying to support the kids that were still at home, my little brother, myself, and my sister. And I was sort of left in this position where I could try to fend for myself and go to school, and I've seen that fail with other people. Or here's this way out. Here's this way out where you could still help your family, where you can still help your family by joining the military.
Yeah.
Because
you could send the money back to your family. Is that?
Yeah, but when my grandmother died in 2007, I essentially paid for my grandmother's remains to fly back to the Philippines, and also for the funeral. And I also helped out with some of the bills that needed to be paid, because my mom and dad, the house that we grew up in, they couldn't pay the mortgage, and now it's gone because Bank of America took the house.
What was your passion, Jules, when you were in school? If you could have been in anything or had a strong sway to anything, what would that have been? What would you have seen yourself doing if money wasn't an object?
Money wasn't an object. Originally, I wanted to be like a teacher. I remember telling my captain that. I remember when my captain brought me in to talk to me about re-enlistment and all this crap. You're gonna get stop loss, and I told him, I want to be a teacher. I've kind of had that goal for a while. I've been on the front lines of history of this war. I'd like to bring my experience to the kids and stuff. My dream has changed a little bit. I think I'd like to go to school and study in something that has more to do with affecting policy. Like global studies or something like that.
And you're kind of doing both, really, because you're teaching, you're lecturing, so you are doing a bit of teaching, and you may change politics. I don't know.
I've gotten the sense that kids don't take me seriously, though.
I know.
So I think I'm better off working with adults. But one of my friend Tyler Juden, who was killed in 2000, and he was killed during the second deployment, was on a patrol to the forward operating base he was going to get stationed at, and then his convoy was ambushed. Jeez. He was killed. But me and him spent a lot of time together during the first deployment, talking about he would talk about being a beach bum, and being a beach bum for a year and going to school to be a teacher, because his dad was a teacher in Kansas. And I love that whole idea of bringing your experience to the new generation. And it's unfortunate, maybe later in life I may do that, but it's too bad that here's a kid who, he never got the chance to hate the war as much as I did, and he wanted to be a teacher. Yeah. And well,
that's the thing, is we have all this wasted talent. We're spending all this energy on war when we could be building great things here. Yeah. So I hope that if you do end up back in the States with your family, that you'll come to Pueblo and see us.
Yeah, that would be
teach
fucking awesome.
some kids there.
I'd love to.
Because one day we hope to start our own school there with a very hands-on approach, very different than the school that we see. So we're going to work on that. But we're going to be touring for the next 5 or 6 days, so it'll be great.
Check out Frontlines International at WordPress, or frontlinesinternational.wordpress.com.
Okay, I'll put the link up too on the end of this. Thanks, Jules.
From this nightmare to the dawn of a new day, when the guns and bombs and all the toys of war are thrown away.